Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to start our meeting, so if you would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, take the roll, please.
Councilwoman Gabarecki.
Present.
Councilman Templin.
Present.
Councilman Cisco.
Present.
Councilman Hayes is out of town and has to be excused. Councilman DeGiulio.
Here.
Pro Tem Keenan.
Present.
And Mayor Mategas.
Present.
We have a quorum, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we hear the presentation from the superintendent of schools and, I'm sorry, Rick Morley, I don't know his title, but he's
Director of Operations.
Director of Operations. I'm assuming he's probably going to be the one doing the lion's share. But what we're going to do is, after their presentation, we will go directly to citizens' comments at that point, because we really don't, as most of us don't know what the agenda item is about. So we'll give you a chance at the conclusion of their presentation to ask those questions before the council deliberates. So hopefully that will give you an opportunity to give the council your thoughts. So with that, Ms. Kelly
And our school board member, Mr. Turner, doesn't want to come up.
Good evening. We are in the planning stages of perhaps building an elementary school in Northern Allen Park, where our Rogers Elementary School is right now. We have lots of portables, and we have enrollment that keeps increasing. And we looked at perhaps putting an addition on Rogers School, but found that we then have old infrastructure, and we'd rather go for the price of a cup of coffee to our taxpayers, who we have to go to for this, of course. It would be better just to build a whole new school. Some of the things that we have been looking at before we go to the Treasury, we have 2 or 3 plans. One of the plans included a portion of the park that belongs to the city of Allen Park. And I know you have lots of mitigating circumstances to look at this. It's all in the planning stages. We would like to perhaps get some of the property from the city of Allen Park, and in return, we're looking at giving a walkway for our, actually a recreational walkway over in Northern Allen Park for the citizens of Allen Park. At this time, Rick has some pictures that we actually have, and which way we go on this. We can actually build the school without coming to Allen Park, but we'd rather, for the students' safety, have some bus turnarounds and some other things which would impact the property that you own. So at this time, I'm turned over to Rick, and he can perhaps explain a little better, and then we can answer questions of the council. And this is preliminary, and I know we probably have to have some other meetings with the Department of Rec and some of the other people looking at it before any decision can be made, but we wanted to come before you so you're hearing it from us.
Good evening. Currently, the Rogers site is about 20,000 square foot. We have 8 portables on there, which are about another 6,000 square feet. We're looking at the new building that we're going to propose is about 56,000 square feet, so it's a considerably larger building. For those who've been over there, you know the traffic issues with the current state, with busing and car drop-off. Those schools were not designed for the amount of car traffic we have and pedestrian traffic. So what we've done is, what we've come here today to ask you is just for you to think about. You can go up there and kind of show you. The first picture I'm going to have is the aerial view with the current school on it, and in orange you will see our current property lines where the school is laid out. So what we've done is we've taken that building that we're going to go to Treasury, and again, this is preliminary. I just need for the council to kind of look it over and think if it's possible that we'll meet with Parks and Rec, that this land swap or however we do this, when I go to Treasury, I just need some numbers to go to Treasury with when we go for the bond in November. So we're not asking for a commitment tonight, just kind of look at the numbers for it. And the current view he has is the current existing layout. The next view that we're going to be passing around is building the school within our own property lines so that you can see some of the confinements that we would be facing, leaving it on our current site.
So Rick, what you gave us is the current property line, so the 666 feet
Correct.
by 530.
Yeah, the building you see is sitting on the current property.
And
That area in the back is where they put the super sewer in. And then over there on the Kennedy Park side, it's an access road to go back there, but we can move that around. We just left that in so we could access the back of our lot. Okay, this next drawing here would show building the existing building within our current property lines and keeping everything intact. But you'll see by the drawing that the construction going on with the amount of traffic and everything going on, it would be real tough for us to build that school and keep the current school open while we're building. It would be a little bit of a safety nightmare. We can pass that one. The next two drawings we're going to send around will show the existing school being moved over onto the Kennedy Park site in two different variations. With that, you'll see a brand new bus loop, a new car-only student drop-off loop, a employee parking, and then also visitor parking that takes all those cars off the street. Again, these are preliminary. We just kind of laid them out so you can see. In both cases, you see we moved over and took the bulk of Kennedy Park. And then in either case, what we're looking at, once we tear Rogers down, is taking that existing green space now and working with Parks and Rec and with the council to build. We're using that ball diamond over there for our middle school, so we're looking at another ball diamond, the walking track, enhancing the playground structure that's over there now. Basically, maybe even get a committee together within the neighborhood to see what they would like over there. With that, the board's proposing, if this goes, then that we can either work within the city and do a joint venture, or we would build it and leave it open to the public. We're really open to whatever you guys are open to. So that's the next two drawings.
And the school district is willing to take the initiative with the
You want your mic
walking we're
on?
talking about. We'd like to do it jointly, but financially, we would be willing to see that through.
We're curious, on the first drawing that you sent around, that's the existing one.
Yeah.
You have the same property lines, the 539 by 666. I guess the question is what is your current property line? On the first drawing, that's what I was asking. So you're not currently 666 feet wide right now?
Yeah. Hey, Rick?
No, I have a original.
This drawing here, that's not the property line, is it? Is this like,
The red box?
that's, that,
No, it comes over just the other side of the access route. They put that on there wrong.
Okay, so that's that's the buffer you're asking for. It's just what's on the other side of that access road over to where the orange line is.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, we just come right to the other, just a little bit over into that tree line there on the other side of the access road.
so is
That's
this like
how
what,
it is today.
I'm sorry,
So that
Rick.
access road
Rick,
is-
is this,
so
this is land you want to acquire?
Correct. What we're looking at is doing a joint venture, basically. Either way, in order to build the school, we're going to need to take some existing space and use it. It's not being used as part of the park. It won't affect the ball diamond or the walking. But we prefer to move the school over further, over to Kenny as much as possible. And then we can use the existing side streets for incoming traffic instead of everything on Shenandoah. We can have people come in directly into the school, which you'll see on these next two drawings here.
It would basically be a land swap.
Excuse me, Cora, can you turn on that microphone and talk? It's
Maybe my voice that always carries so well is carrying.
on, you just have to speak into the microphone.
It would basically be a land swap that we'd be kind of looking at doing while we build the other school. And while we build the new school, again, if the voters pass this, and we know that if it's there. But we wanted to be able to say that we've talked to the council, that it is a distinct possibility, and then we would have our legal, your legal get together and find out again. I know, as Mr. Vatakis has just said, where the original property came from, if it's earmarked only for parks and for recreation, it might not be a possibility, but these were all things that we were looking at swapping, so we'd still have a park, it would just be in a different position.
So when you say land swap, Ms. Kelly, you're saying so that would be the same, so whatever the city would need over to you folks, you would need the other part, the same square footage basically back to us when the property is done.
Right, if you wanted to do it that way. If you wanted to do a joint venture with something with a park, if you want the school district to absorb that, take it over and be fully responsible for it, we would be willing to do that as well.
Yeah, we would maintain it, cut it, but leave it open to the public to use if you care to do it that way. We would want to take that into account. The two drawings, the two that went around are the drawings of the existing building and then keeping it within somewhat of a footprint of the existing. These are the two proposals which I showed you that lay the building out more on the Kennedy Park side. One goes flush back to 94, and it encompasses, it doesn't go over quite as far. And you'll see the bus loops in that. And then the other one is slightly more towards our existing property. And you can see the bus loops, drawings, and the pedestrian parks and everything on both of these. So when you're going around, take a look at these two. These are kind of what we're proposing is what we'd like to do with that property.
And we know this is a lot to present to the council, not having heard anything before, but we had to start somewhere. So that's why I see the looks on some of your faces as well, and I would be like, where are these people from?
out and walk around and be
Well, that's what we want to do, and have joint meetings if possible.
And I only made one set because everything is so preliminary. You know, if we need additional sets, we can have those made. This is kind of more of an informational, so you can take a look at it and think about it, and you know, if you have questions or anything to ask us. So,
Question, I think here I'm looking at where the school is going to go.
let me log up that way.
I would just like to interject here, and maybe this is just a friendly thing here. You've given us all these maps, and we have one map to look at among all of us. Is it possible that the next time that we meet, even though these are preliminary, you're telling us stuff, and we're on the second map, and you've done the fifth and sixth map or whatever, we have nothing to look at.
I understand. We would have 4 more made. They were very expensive. They were so preliminary, but we would be more than happy to provide that.
Well, you're telling us to think this over and stuff, and I still don't, and I don't have anything in front of me to look at. You know, it's hard to make a decision like this. And
Yeah, there's a little bit of playground, so then that would come over this area.
I don't know how hard it would be to get that done.
This is if we had space, I don't know if
Sure.
we had back here, but those are all things we would look at.
I asked the mayor for time.
That's back here.
And we would be more than happy to provide additional maps
Here now.
for
Well,
everyone.
Mrs. Parker and I actually drove there last year and looked at Kennedy Park.
We
And
didn't
Mrs. Parker, you know, the thought was of maybe even selling the park and getting rid of it,
So
right?
we left it because we had a parcel.
Yeah, but you would have the final say of just giving them the property or and let them take it over completely. or-
Well, with parkland, you know, there's a couple of issues with state law and
Right now,
then,
this
you know,
is-
how the park has been improved. And so for, you know, for the meeting tonight, I think the purpose is to provide the information to allow us time to digest it, do our research, and then a recommendation would be forthcoming to the city council.
So this was.
Exactly, and that's
Over
exactly,
there and looked at it, and Mrs. Parker and I discussed.
perhaps even selling it, and that was a possibility too. We did meet with Mrs. Parker before we had this, just briefly, the same kind of, let's look at this is where we are, but we know we want to start somewhere, and then I believe someone talked with Parks and Recreation, and we said, well, we have to start someplace, because we are going to have something concrete to take to the state, so, and we would be amenable at a good price to even buy it and be out of your, but the other thought was, if it could happen.
We can, you know, we look at turning parking lots and so forth, different ways to get the most green.
Yeah, I know it's a special session, I know you're trying to give us a lot of information, but it's all very confusing at this point. I'm not getting a whole lot out of this at this time.
Okay,
I'm behind behind the curve as you're talking about stuff, as I get the first one, and questions are being asked that way before the maps even get here. And it's just very confusing.
Okay.
You know, you know, I don't think there's any doubt that, you know, we want to help our neighboring city to do whatever they can. But I think a little more preparedness would help, would go a long way.
And I totally agree, and we would be willing to get additional copies of everything for everyone to see. But we had to start someplace, Mr. Cisco, so that's why we're here this evening. And
Yeah, this really was just open for discussion, so that everybody can kind of take a look at this.
Well, it's always good to get off on a good start. I don't know if we've achieved that today or not.
Well, the purpose of the meeting was to plant the seeds for the school board to utilize Pleasant Park.
I realize what that was for, but at the same time, you can't plant the seed if you can't see the picture.
Okay.
I'm done.
And we will make sure that we do a better job of explaining and giving everybody a packet the next time. But that's,
I can't help you.
yeah, thank you. We would be more than willing to do that and provide a packet with what we know at the time. But we don't want to be presumptuous either and say this is what, because someone's going to say they have a lot of nerve before they even come to the council to give us this kind of, ask for this kind of information. So we wanted you to know it's out there. We didn't want it dropped on a bomb, someone coming up, because my board members are furious if they hear something out of the street. So I'm very careful to let them know where we're coming from. And that's the same thing we're doing here.
And generally, before we spent a lot of expense, I kind of wanted to get a feedback from the council on what they'd like to see, and then we can put some more detail in it and present it back to you again.
I had my aunt and uncle live in Melvindale, and my aunt and uncle was very active in Melvindale. In fact, getting the new junior high built many years ago. They're very active in doing that. And I spent many a summer at DeLuca Field playing every day, all summer long at my aunt and uncle's house over there. So I do have a soft spot for Melvindale.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the new park over there by the pool. That was city property, so when we built Allendale, we built that parkland for the neighborhood and for the school, so that was a joint venture with that one. So it was more just to kind of get it out there for you guys to look at it, give us some feedback on what you'd like to see, and then we can put more detail. Because it's in the planning, I'm all about $1 too. I don't want to spend too much on these drawings, and then we get a little bit of feedback, and then we can add more detail to it. So.
Yeah, concern. I like. I talk about it. I like the idea. There's some nice things in there. One of my concerns is there's a ball field there.
Right.
That you're showing you're going to take it out. Now, would that be something? Keep it in the back of your mind. Would be something that needs to be replaced because Carson's back.
Yep.
I think that ball field is used. Is scheduled. It's a scheduled ball field. The recreation park is still using, so I know you're saying you're going to replace the walking, you're going to take the walking track away.
Well, our middle school is currently using that for practice too, so I've been working with Carson, so I know that ball diamond is used. So it definitely would be replaced and done better. We're doing some upgrades on that now because we've been using it. So we've been kind of doing a little bit joint venture on the parks now, working together with Carson. It's been a great asset. I can leave these if you guys would.
Well, no, the citizens haven't even seen those. Okay. So you're gonna have to kind of hold those, you and Bob, because Ms. Kelly has another meeting she has to go to. So at least you can take a look at them, ask your questions before we go back to the council, all right? Ladies and gentlemen.
Is playground equipment going to go in for the school, or that?
It'll be both. We'll do some strictly for the school because of the kindergartners, there's got to be a fence. Then we will do a public playground.
There will be some playground equipment will be replaced, because I'm sure that neighborhood uses some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what, I looked at it, it looks like it's kind of outdated right now.
I don't think it's been used too much lately. I live over there too, and I've kind of been driving around there and looking around to see, I know the baseball field is used, and we've most definitely had that in our plans. I probably didn't say. Anybody that has anything to do with baseball diamonds knows that they are everybody wants to use your diamonds.
Yeah,
any that you have. The DeLuca Field is loaded, and ours is loaded, and that's why this one was put into use a lot more than it is. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it is coming back. Now, the school is K-1
K1 only, that's a K1 building.
That's just a K1?
K1 building.
Okay.
We have 8 sections of each in there right now, but we have 6 aging portables, and
Right.
safety with all this other stuff happening, we have these little ones walking from the portables into the school, and they're getting older, and, we have to do something. We didn't have to put an addition on. The original thing was an addition, and then the more we looked into it, rather just build a whole new school, and that there wouldn't be that much difference in the cost.
Mhm.
Right now, with property values low for the taxpayer, of course, as property values all go up, as we know, it will rise with that.
It's
But
probably easier to build a brand new school, tear out the old one, than to try mess with portables for the whole construction time.
when they started talking about that, first thing they started saying was, well, what about the roof? Well, the roof needs to be replaced. What about some of the infrastructure? It's just old, so if you're going to go, just like we did with Allendale, we just built a whole new school. That one we were able to do without going to
And
people
that's
for a bond.
That's a
But-
beautiful school.
Yeah, we're very proud of that, and we hope to do this. I really had hoped to leave a high school before I left, but as I'm looking around at my former students here, as Bob Keenan, as your attorney, as Carson Smith, these were all my former students many years back, so I think we all have a lot of common interest here. And Northern Allen Park is still part of Melvilleville, Northern Allen Park, and I'm part of our school district. So we have to leave one school in Allen Park because we're Melvilleville, Northern Allen Park. So that's why we're here, and we'd love to work together with you, and we will make sure that we get packets together in pictures so you have a little better picture.
That would be very much appreciated.
I apologize, again, I just want to emphasize, we didn't want to come to the council and say this is what we want. It was more just kind of what could happen. We'd obviously want people in the neighborhood to come forward and say what they would like, whether it's walking tracks, obviously a ball diamond and some kid swings. We would do a joint, we'd do a committee with the council. We don't want to be presumptuous to come here and tell you this is what it is. We just kind of to give you an idea of what we foresaw it being and what it could turn into. Thank you very much.
Okay, the council, if we could just hold the rest of our questions and remarks until we've had the citizens come up, look at some of those drawings and ask their questions of our presenters.
Where would you like us to put them? Right here?
Yeah, if you can kind of hold on there, and I think does any citizens want to come up and take a look at these drawings and make a comment?
That's the mother of the nation, right?
Make sure I get the right one back, Larry.
Do you want the right one back?
So these aren't parting gifts?
This was.
Larry, you got 2 more. If your job's not done, don't leave yet.
So this shows the existing school. Right here. And then I'll show you the proposed. This would be moving the existing school to the site, only towards Kennedy a little bit more. That's the bus line.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Thank you very much for allowing us to come up here this time. I've been in this area with Bob. I've looked at this area. I understand what you're trying to do. I think it's a great idea. Through the chair, Ms. Parker, I know you are looking at trying to control our costs within our city, and I know it's expensive to cut lawns and to take care of our parks. I think this is a great idea, or a great time now, to allow the school district to take over the whole park, let them go ahead and maintain the whole thing. Give the citizens around that area in that school that's using that school, have a little town hall meeting within your school, invite the city council, Ms. Parker, the city administrator, and the citizens to have them actually go and take a look at this area, because I've been there, and looking at it from this high is kind of a little bit deceiving. There's a lot of room there. You can move the ball field and move it. You can do that. You don't have to go. It'll be a nice area to walk. There's plenty of room for the kids to still use it. And at the same time, you're going to make it a lot safer for the children, and for the public and for the parents to pick up their children. I think it's a great idea. I'm for it, even though I'm not in that area. It's just an area I've seen. So I would highly recommend the city council to go there and actually take a good look and have a little meeting, like I said, at the school. And then that way they can actually go out there and take a look at it and says, you know what? This might work and it might not work. And at the same time, we'll still keep a park and we'll save money. We won't have to cut the lawn.
We'll be happy to cut the lawn.
And you'll be happy to cut the lawn and maintain it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
I don't see any other citizens, so I'm going to close the comment period for citizens, and then I'm going to ask for all the drawings back up here. Keep the guns. Some of the council may want to look at the drawing if they've got questions.
No, I think they want to look at it.
There is, we looked at the feasibility too, we believe, that depending on how we put parking lots in there, we can turn them a little bit. If it's something that the neighborhood would wish, I think we have room in that green space to actually put a soccer field with a walking track around it, with some maybe little workout stations and that. So there's a lot of variables we can do depending on how we turn parking lots. There's a lot of green space over there. So.
How many cars you think come through there? Have you any idea?
Well, there's 450 kids.
How many buses?
We have 9 buses come over there. There's nowhere, so they're out on Shenandoah. And then you have staff over the additional 40-some. Then you have, out of those 9 buses, there's about 300 and some kids. So you have 150 cars coming to pick up kids, probably any given 100 to 150. And then when you have the after-school activities, if you've ever been in that area, yeah, we park them on the grass and that, but there's not enough room. So with those existing, all those had enough existing parking to get all those cars and buses off the street. That itself.
Other than a special event, like an evening event?
Well, we will handle a lot of them. Yeah, not probably all of them, but definitely a lot, because the bus loop and that, if it's not being used in the evening, then we can use that for additional parking.
Now, is there a drop-off loop for parents?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the drawing shows two drop-off loops. One, buses only.
Okay.
The other one, the cars will come and drop students off. That particular building is showing we're having it running. It runs the entire length of the front of the building, so the students are dropped to be out of the weather.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councilman Dicuzzo.
I actually don't really need a complete drawing of it, so as a hypothetical thing, we walked the school grounds and looked in the cafeteria and this and that. As a hypothetical thing, now, if we sold you that park for $1, you would have complete control of it, you would take care of the grass cutting, you would put the new fields in, you would do everything.
Correct.
The only thing we'd have to do is go there and enjoy it.
That's correct.
So it's a win-win.
Well, you'd have to help, because we really are about wanting to put in there what the neighborhood wants, so you would have to help do the citizens. Bring the citizens to tell us what they want. We know we need a ball diamond. I think a lot of people like walking tracks now, so we'd like to fit that in, so it really would be about what the city, the neighborhood wants.
Those Quonsets to me look really dangerous. The 3 on the one side and the 2 on the other side.
They call them condos.
They're condos? Okay.
They originally,
Quonsets,
I think they're about 10 plus years old. Originally, we thought after 2 years we would be out and we just had an influx of kids, and then, thank goodness, we continue to have people moving into the area, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, Mrs. Parker and I discussed it when we were over there last year. We thought they looked like they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So there's 450 students there. How many do you plan to have there? This is just kindergarten first or
Right
just
now it's
first?
K1. We'd like to move preschool there as well, although right now I'm working with Inner City Baptist and we may be renting a wing of the school that I sold to them 5 years back for a Head Start and preschool, but we would like to have preschool there as well.
I'm sorry,
He is pushing for early education.
Right.
So we think it would be a revenue source there for.
The new design has 18 classrooms and 2 preschool classrooms into the new design. It also has a full cafeteria. Currently, we cook at Allendale and transport food, so they'll have a kitchen there. If you've been in Allendale, it's going to have the same combination gym cafeteria design, so that the portable wall with a stage, when they have school events, now we put chairs out, people can't get in there. So it really will be a community center also. So
Where will the funds come from to build a new building?
we have to go to Treasury for, in November, we're gonna ask for a bond. It has to be a vote.
A vote of all the Allen Parkers and Melvindale people? Is that what it is?
Just the Northern Allen Park
Just
people
Northern
and
Allen Park and
only
Melvindale?
Northern Allen Park. And if you look at your tax rolls right now, we've been very thrifty, and Northern
Yes.
Allen Park pays less than any of the 3 school districts, Southgate, Allen Park, or Melvindale, for our properties.
It appears at this time, based on some initial numbers I'm getting, that the average homeowner would be under $100 a year for the school. Don't take those figures totally, do we get everything, we'll start getting numbers back. It definitely, it could be around that $50 to $60 range. What
Allen Park has always been generous as far as the schools. We had all the renovations done here, they were, Allen Park voters are always good for the schools. Thank you.
Northern Allen Park.
Thank you for hearing
We'll
us.
continue it.
Yeah, no.
And we'll have any questions that anyone has, please feel free. Mrs. Parker has my cell phone. You're welcome to give out my cell phone if you have any questions. Rick Morley is there, our Director of Operations. Any of the board members, Jim Berry is spearheading this. We've been having our meetings, but we didn't want you to hear it on the street and say how presumptuous. So that was part of the reason we went to Mrs. Parker and that we're all here today. So thank you for taking the time to listen to us.
Well, we still have questions.
Okay.
I have another, I didn't catch.
Councilman Templin.
Is there a certain design that you're looking, that you prefer over the other? You saw two, I saw one that the school's on an angle facing out, or there's one that's.
It really depends on what we decide, it really depends on what decided for that green space on where we lay the school. That's why we show different designs, because we can turn it and turn parking lots and still get those loops and change the design of the green space to incorporate whether it's a soccer field or more of a walking baseball type. So those were just kind of to show how it would fit within that site. Yeah.
Still very cool.
Mayor,
Councilman Cisco.
you say this is going to go on the ballot in November, that's for sure?
Yes, if we get all our paperwork done and all of our homework done with the Treasury.
And here's a question that I have to ask is, what is the percentage of the total Northern Allen Park school system, school of choice kids?
We're down in school of choice right now. We probably are about 500 out of 2850. But that number is going down. I only took 15 or 20 school of choice this year because we have an influx of families moving into Melvindale and Northern Allen Park when the foreclosed homes were there. So we have a whole, we're dealing with bilingual now and it's a whole new program going on there. But our school of choice numbers are going down rapidly because we don't have room for them any longer. And I see that as a continuing trend.
Thank you.
Of course, that's a question too that the voter is going to have to look
Well,
at.
and that's why I bring it up, because, you know, there is going to be that question that comes up, why should I have to spend my tax money on school of choice kids? You know, that is the question going forward for a lot of school districts.
I know.
Not just Melvindale.
A lot of people may not know, when we built Allendale, we closed 3 elementaries. We actually didn't go to the public for any additional funds. We are paying that payment out of our operating costs. So it shows, you know, we're very budget minded. We don't do things. If you look at Allendale, it's a beautiful building, but there's no frills. I mean, everything there is used to a purpose. It looks nice, but there's no fountains and things that don't, you know, every dollar that was spent. That building was built actually for one of the smallest costs because the economy had went bad then, so we got the trade very cheap. That building was built just with over $100 a square foot, which if you know construction, that was an incredible amount of money, so.
And
As you may or may not know, the county is going, Wayne County RESA, our Regional Educational Service Agency, is going for a millage in August. And I've already looked at that, and if that millage passes, then we would be asking less with ours, because we would be able to utilize some of that money, you know, to go into it. But I didn't think the special education millage was going to pass 9 years ago. Not one downriver district passed it, and yet it passed, and we're paying for it. So I'm not sure this county one is going to pass. However, we have to plan for it if it is, and we also have to, you know, make other plans as well. I mean, we're looking at, because we can't burden our taxpayers with it. We're all taxpayers. We can't burden them with too many additional taxes. So, you know, we're very sensitive to that as well.
Council, I've got a couple concerns and questions and things I think we just have to think about as we go forward. You know, obviously, it makes sense to keep the Rogers School operating while you build a new school. So I think everybody's kind of in agreement on that. I guess my concern is, very nice that the school district will agree to take care of all the property and everything else. And then I can point to Schaefer High, and I will point to another school on the south end, all of which the Southgate, as they got pressures and financial problems, have hurt all our southern residents who are in the Southgate School District. All the schools closed in Southgate were schools used by Allen Parkers predominantly. And so, to me, I would probably not ever vote to give you the property without a reverter if you stop using it as a school. All the property comes back to the city of Allen Park. I just think you and I won't be here to see it, probably. But having seen what's gone on in the South End and hear from South End residents, as I do, about they'd like to not be in the Southgate School District. And we know the state's not about to start redrawing property line, school boundaries, but that's an issue, and I think it has to be solved, and I think you have to be ready to do that. And of course, we have to know whether we can convey to begin with.
Right.
And you already know that.
Yes. And that was one of my thoughts too, Mr. Matakis. I wondered what is in your deed, or what is in the deed for that property.
Where do the teachers park currently?
There's a small lot by Kennedy Park. It's actually the entrance into the back of the building where the dumpster is. We put some lines in there. It only holds about 10, 15 cars. So some park on the street, some park over on the visitor side, which probably only has an additional 30 parking spots. It's a very unsafe condition. When those buildings were built, as we all know, everybody walked, it was all, nobody drove, and now, you know, everybody drives and with deliveries.
There are no churches near that, are there?
No.
Okay. Because you've got 128 parking spots on this new drawing for 30 teachers. I know you said you have parents and whatnot coming, but that's a big increase in hard surfacing of the property over there. And it looks very tough to get a ballpark in and or a walking track or other services and maintain a certain park facilities. Also, we currently have $40,000 of funds that were supposed to go in there to build new park equipment. Obviously, for us, we have to see whether we can repurpose the money or we're going to lose it, because this is the second year, and I know we looked at what we wanted to do there, and maybe Carson Smith has said that to you. I know we talked about it tonight. So that's an issue. The other things that I think are, how do we ensure, I'm assuming that we probably convey before you put a shovel in the ground. So maybe we don't have to worry about insurance. Maybe the issue for whoever the contractors are to insure city property and the neighbors over there. And I guess when the deeds are issued, if there's a positive vote in November, what would be the time frame to start construction the next spring?
Well, Brownwood would start pretty quickly. The time frame would be to open in the start of school year 2016. I'm sorry, 2015. It's a it's a pretty quick turnaround because
Get it built in 6 months?
2016. Yeah, go back. Yeah. The start of school year 2016. Getting too old, the years are flying, but trying to slow them down. So yeah, the whole process it's hard because you have to have everything in place before you can go to Treasury, before you can go to vote. So you're trying to make and ask for things that you really don't have answers to sometimes, but you kind of need to know, is it feasible? So we have to give a dollar amount to Treasury to actually ask for the bond, whether we use it all or not. So that's kind of what this is, a informal meeting. You kind of say, yeah, this is possible. We're not asking for a decision. If it's possible, would there be a cost involved so I can roll that into the Treasury thing? If it passes, you know, once, I guess going into November, we would probably need to know, you know, pretty quickly, once it passed, on where we would place the school, then so we could start right away. So probably even prior to that bond vote in November, I guess we'd kind of be looking to get an answer so we could start to progress right away. I'll have to talk to the construction manager here to see when they would need to know that. But I would assume they'd want that right at the time that the bond was approved so they could start growing.
Well, I think probably, I'm not the city's attorney, but I think there's a lot of work that the attorneys have to do. Their documents are in place to take to the state.
Oh, yes.
So I think the school board's attorney ought to be talking to ours to start figuring out those questions, looking at titles, and what the end document may look like between the city and the school district.
Right.
So if you would
We'll have
get
to
back in
probably
touch
get
with Ms. Parker and set that up, and I don't know whether the council's feeling would be to set some kind of committee and use Parks and Rec, or whether we will just wait on administrative staff and react to that.
Well, we'll wait
have to
until
have that
you
discussion.
decide and you let us know and then we can go from there.
Are there any other questions by council? Well, thank you. I think I've been in there, I've taught the first graders for several years.
You used to bring them books.
We still do that, yeah. It's always fun to come there twice a
Mr.
year.
Davis has been coming to our career day probably 40 years ago,
Yeah,
I think.
my career's going out of style. But anyway, thank you very much for your presentation.
And thank you and thank everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
That will come to elected officials, and tonight we will start with Mayor Pro Tem Keenan.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I just say that, you know, this is the first time I saw this, so I don't really have a lot of input. Certainly at face value, from my opinion, I would tend to be more in favor of a land swap type situation than just giving the park away. But that'll be yet to be told once we see what we end up with. So have a good evening.
Councilman Templin.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight.
Skip you, Mr. Cisco, I'm gonna come back to you.
I'm there.
My only concern is that we do the work that we need to do to look at all aspects of this and not fall all over ourselves like I heard tonight of saying this is the greatest thing ever. We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to look at here. You just can't, you know, automatically say it's a great thing. I think we need to look at it. If it looks good and everything is right, then it will be okay, but not before that. Thank you.
Councilman DiGiulio.
Good night, everyone.
Councilwoman Gallardi.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Clerk Busy.
Thank y'all for coming out. God bless you and good night.
City Administrator Foltz.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and I think that
This is an initiative that has a lot of positive characteristics, and we should take a close look at it. Thank you.
Emergency Manager Parker.
I also would like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. And then secondly, the administration will meet with the school superintendent and others to pull together the packet of information that you need and do the research that's required and provide to the council a recommendation as well.
Thank you. I think the Melvindale Northern Allen Park School District has been very cognizant of their relationship with the Allen Park residents. We do have 2 of their schools, and what's most important to me, those are elementary schools, which are the ones that are hardest to move children further distances. I think young children like to be closer to home, and those schools are in the city of Allen Park, so I have to give them thanks for that, for our residents, and I think replacing this school will be a great boon to the homes in that northern Allen Park area. As I said earlier, I do get nervous. Administrations change, things happen. We have to make decisions that aren't always fun, or have to make decisions where some people are hurt more than other people. And I just would not like to see that property go out of Allen Park's hands or out of school use. And therefore, I think we have to have some sort of reversion if Melvindale stops using the property, that it would revert to Allen Park. So we had a study many years ago by the United States, I think, Federal Wildlife Service on parks, and they said for the size of Allen Park, and we've had a pretty consistent population. We've had a high of 35,000. We're currently at 28,210. We were about 29,200 in the year 2000. So we've been pretty constant for over 20 years. But the parklands are limited. We don't have many spaces here that we can utilize for open spaces, so we don't want to, I don't think, see them go away for future Allen Parkers and even ourselves. So with that, thank you all for coming out tonight, and I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Support.
Mr. Cisco's moved, Mr. Templin is seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:50.